Welcome to the Working Well podcast, the show that explores the critical intersection of leadership, business strategy, and sustainable human performance, and how these things are defining the future of work. I'm your host, Tim Borys. Now, today's guest built a real estate empire, then scaled it while in the middle of the media spotlight. But it's her behind-the-scenes story of self-reflection, intention, and purpose that really resonates with me. Bianca D'Alessio is a top New York broker, star of Selling the Hamptons, and the author of Mastering Intentions. In this episode, Bianca and I dive into how she turned personal adversity into authentic leadership, and why well-being, mindset, and vulnerability are now her superpowers. If you're seeking greater personal power, passion, and productivity while avoiding the burnout trap, then this episode's for you. Bianca, welcome to the show. It's my honor to have you here and chat with you again. I loved our conversation when we were doing the pre-call, and I'm so excited to dive into all the insights you've come out from your book and just hear a bit more about your story, and we can share that with the world as well. The world doesn't already know about you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. So, I wouldn't say most people, a lot of people know you from the Selling the Hamptons show and your real estate company success, but you've just put out a book.
Yes.
Yeah, give me like a bit of a background on how this book came to be and how you got to where you are now.
Okay. So
Nicole's notes version.
there's a long and there's a short version, but I'll do the short version. So a few years ago, after I was originally cast to be on the show Selling the Hamptons, I just got so much power out of that experience because it was the first time I was forced into understanding the power of vulnerability. I was super terrified to be on reality TV, and it was during that filming process that I realized that I had to own my story, that I needed to be authentic, and that it was okay to not have this strong protective barrier of perfectionism all of the time. And through that experience of filming and connecting and building community, I just realized that I had so much more to share. From when I was really young, I loved the art of writing and journaling. I was not a very expressive person, and I didn't know how to vocalize my emotions or my thoughts. So I wrote them down, and it was my way of processing, and it was like my own form of therapy. And so I revisited that a few years ago. And so I've been working on this for the past few years, and it's been very cathartic. It started at what I thought was supposed to be a real estate sales book. That was the pitch. Those was the first few working chapters. And then as I was writing that, thinking about what makes a great salesperson, what makes a great marketer, it's not about the actual profession of sales or marketing. It's the art of storytelling. It's the way we connect to people. It's the way that we build those bridges in community and the deeper understanding of human behavior and psychology. And so it totally morphed into a self-help book, a storytelling book, a book about power and impact. And so, yeah, that's where it started. And it's been a really, really exciting journey ever since.
Fantastic. And as I know from experience too, writing a book often just becomes this almost self-therapy. When you write it, you dive into your own headspace, where you were at a certain time, and how you can take those lessons and share them with the world.
Totally.
And, obviously one of the reasons you got cast for the show is because your successful career before that. So you were a successful business owner, entrepreneur. And when we chatted last, you mentioned a lot about managing your own mindset and well-being. Talk to me a bit about that journey throughout this process of being an entrepreneur and growing a business.
I just want to say I'm happy to be on the other side of the mental health, wellness, awareness journey, because when I started my business, I was not in that space at all. I thought I did not have the business all figured out, but I thought like I had myself figured out.
As we all do until we don't.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And my company actually started out of a failed partnership prior to that, where I walked away from a relationship, from a business partnership, And I was forced to literally start all over again. And it was in doing that that I said, what's important to me? What are my values? What do I want to make sure that I learn from that experience, that I want to implement and make sure I don't make the same mistakes again? And truthfully, I had something to prove. Like I was like, I cannot let this fail. And so, the beginning 18 months, I threw everything into it. You know, did not make time for anything else. I sat in my office 20 hours, 21 hours a day. I was getting no sleep, did not exercise. I was eating terribly. I was entertaining clients at night, drinking, eating, all of the unhealthy things that you have to do when you're starting, when you are starting and you're in that startup mode. And then it was 18 months later that I looked at myself and I'm like, it looks like I aged 10 years in the past 18 months. Like, I don't look like a 30-year-old woman. I look like I'm well over, and the bags under my eyes, like I don't look healthy. And I'm like, if someone's sitting across from me and I'm pitching them their business, are they going to want to give me business with the way that I'm presenting myself? Like I'm preaching that I have it figured out and I'm going to take care of them and do all of these things, but I'm not even taking care of myself. And so it was that moment of self-realization where I said, if I don't start taking care of myself first, business will never come to me. And it was really shifting my mindset at that point in time. And it was very hard for me to sleep. Like it wasn't that I had so much work to do that I wasn't sleeping. It was my mind wouldn't shut off. So I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'd walk to the office because what am I going to do? Lay and look at the ceiling. And so it took a practice of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to look at the ceiling and then I'm going to get up at a normal time. And I'm going to do that until I learn normal sleep patterns. And then I started incorporating exercise. And that's where I start to really, I have a whole chapter about, disciplines and practices and habits, because they are so important when you fall out of that routine and you start to lose yourself. But I did not realize the mental health and the isolation part of starting a business. I could have never expected that. You hear people talk about it, but it is very, very lonely when you're in that startup phase. And I did not know how to cope, and I did not know how to deal. And it was, first taking care of myself, but then secondary, it was finding my tribe of people who had also experienced that.
Yeah.
Trying to explain that to someone who doesn't get it was like, they're like, I don't understand. Why can't you just go to bed earlier and sleep more? I'm like, it just doesn't work that way. My brain won't stop. I have something to prove, and like my brain won't rest.
Yeah.
But that part is so, so important to it is, first the self-recognition, then incorporating in small doses. I did not do everything all at the same time. I started with, I'm going to go out to dinner twice a week. I'm going to drink one of those nights. I'm going to make sure I leave the office at a certain time. I'm going to wake up and start exercising. And I did it all in bits and pieces. And it was really like a 3-year recovery of now where I look and I'm like, oh, I have a normal semblance of a life, and I have hobbies. I have things outside of my office that are interesting about me. And because of that, I'm actually winning and getting more business. So for sure.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear you say that. And you've mentioned a few key things that have come up in my
Mm-hmm.
life and the life of the
Mm-hmm.
clients that I work with. And I think we talked about it before. I started my career in the fitness industry, well, in the elite
Mm-hmm.
athlete side. But then when I started in the fitness industry, all my clients were stressed out, burnt out corporate
Mm-hmm.
leaders and entrepreneurs having heart attacks in their 40s. And the
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them, well, as you said, no one tells you there's not really another way shown
Yep.
until you have experienced it for yourself.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
the interesting thing is, like, that was my industry. I did that. And when I started growing and scaling my business, I fell into the same trap.
Yeah. You're like, I watched everyone else do it and now I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And granted, I probably caught it a lot earlier than other people, and I
Mhm.
still had some semblance of it. But you mentioned values, and that was one thing that I think pulled me back earlier. As I looked in the mirror and and how I felt, and I was like, while I was, because I'm in the fitness industry, I was probably in better shape than a lot of people, but I was like, I'm not happy with where I am right now,
Mhm.
and I need to take a look at how I'm approaching this.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I started setting those guardrails and those boundaries and in order to do that, I had to tune into what are my values?
Yep.
What do I want to be
Hmm.
known for and show up for? What are my non-negotiables?
Yep.
That was critically important to get me back
Eh,
on track. And I've really used that so many times with clients over the years.
Totally. And I felt in the beginning guilty about having non-negotiables. Like, I need my morning routine for me. And like, I won't take calls when I'm at dinner with my family. Like, and I was like, but what if I miss out on a client, or what if I lose out on business? And I'm like, but what about my family? Like, I could give myself 30 minutes a night to be off and to make sure that I'm present with the people who are my motivation, who are my inspiration, or the reason that I work as hard as I do. If not, what am I doing it for? And I had a wake up call because I was actually, I took my first vacation with my brother. And it was on that vacation, and I'm so happy I did that he's like, Bianca, I don't even recognize you anymore, and I don't even want to be around you. Because if you asked me to describe myself at that time, I wouldn't say I was burnt out. But anytime I would spend time with my family, like, I would be exhausted. I would be irritable. I wasn't myself. Like, I could be happy and jovial in the workplace and laugh. And probably my patience was very tested because I wasn't sleeping. But it was my brother saying to me, like, I don't like who you are. I don't like the person you've become. You're doing all of this and you're losing yourself in the process. You're going to lose me, and you're going to lose this relationship if you don't fix yourself. And it was in that moment I was like, whoa, like, I don't even know where to start or what you're saying from it. Like, it felt like a dagger in me, but I was like, okay, but there has to be some meaning to this, and there has to be some importance to this. I need to identify the behavior and fix it before it gets too late.
Mm-hmm. And so, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be lots of, I guess, ambitious leaders and entrepreneurs out
Mm-hmm.
there listening to this. Instead of having them have to hit rock bottom before they find it out, what are some of the strategies that you think are most important for them to pay attention to, or
So
signs, I guess?
yeah, so I changed the way that I set my goals. So business leaders, managers, we're aspirational people, we're goal oriented people. I started changing the way that I was identifying my goals. Instead of writing, numbers on a piece of paper of these targets that I want to hit, we've been preached SMART goals, SMART goals, SMART goals. Every year I reevaluate, where do I feel like there are lapses in my, I don't want to say character, but in my spiritual journey of the person I want to become. Where am I lacking? And so for me that year, I was lacking inspiration. How do I go on a journey of finding inspiration? And while doing that, I will start to achieve the goals. How do I feel like I'm lacking discipline right now because I'm so distracted. How do you identify those core intentions? That's what the book is all about. Those core intentions that are missing in my life that I want to work towards, and then start to make it more manageable, where you're changing who you are as a behavior, as a person. You're becoming the person that you want to be in order to achieve all of the goals, all of the things, be the person you want to all of the relationships in your life, without trying to achieve like an arbitrary number that you put on a wall. And so I think that's important. It's the process of self-reflection and looking at what areas are you not happy with or you feel that are lacking, and how do you start to shift your mindset to recalibrate, to prioritize them. For me, I literally write them on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
I write them on a wall and I look at them every day, and I make sure that the clients that I work with, the business that I take on, the decisions that I'm making, the time the way I'm spending my social time, it's aligning with those intentions that I've set out for myself for the year and working towards it that way.
Absolutely. You've just hit on one of the key barriers to achieving goals that people have, is the gap of not relating them to values and intention.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
it's easy to set goals, and we can set SMART goals, and it's important to do that, because if you don't
Yep.
have that stick in the sand of a number
Yep.
that you're working
What do you? Yeah.
towards.
What direction are you on? Exactly.
Exactly. But when we do that without really stepping back to say, are those goals aligned with our personal values, our organizational values, and the
Mm-hmm.
intentions that I have for myself as a high performing human,
Yep.
then there's a disconnect there. That's where
Totally.
burnout and stress and underperformance happen.
And I feel that the level of satisfaction just becomes so much more amplified. That first year in business, I was ranked the number one salesperson in New York City and state and number 14 in the nation. And I'm like, wow, first of all, I can't even, I knew I was on this track and I knew I was doing all the things, but I can't believe I hit that goal. But then I look back and I'm like, but something about me, like I don't feel fulfilled. Like I'm accomplishing all of the work success, but I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about my social circle. I don't feel good about my family. How do I change that? What am I missing to make sure that there is that alignment? You have to find that alignment so you feel your passion continues to be fueled.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the layers of uh, purpose, intention,
Yep.
passion that
Hmm.
ideally are that guiding light for how you're approaching life. And it's amazing the energy shift that happens. I worked with countless clients on how to
Hmm.
really tap into those things, and it's just like a light switch going when and you
For sure.
see this new energy when they show up. And yeah, seems like you saw that as well.
And I believe energy is so, so important, right? Like changing your energy for how you're connecting and relating with people, because it's not, that's also a huge portion of it is how are you relating with your people? And they feel that energy. For the way that you're showing up, the way that you're excited, your perception and your attitude about the world or circumstance, that's all rooted in energy and the way that you communicate with people. And that's people pick up on that without you even needing to say anything. It's the way you enter a room.
Hmm. Well, and I think that goes back again to what you mentioned earlier was about the vulnerability is
Hmm.
in order to live into those intentions and your purpose and your values, it requires that you be vulnerable and you step outside and say things and take actions that other people
Hmm.
might not agree with or they might question.
Yep.
Talk to me about that process for you.
Yeah. The word vulnerability, like it has changed so much of my life in the past few years because I never embraced it. I was terrified of it. I was always strong. I had it always figured out. Um, and even when I was younger, I struggled with mental health. I was had depression when I was an adolescent, and it was a very difficult and dark time. But I didn't tell anyone because, like, I thought I could continue to put a smile on my face and will myself into being okay, and that worked to the outside world, but that doesn't really work. The power of vulnerability is enormous. Of once you just like break down the barriers and have an honest conversation with yourself, and then you start to. If I needed to personally, like this book's about practices that work for me that I hope could work for other people, but I practice the conversation with myself. How do I practice sharing my story? How do I get okay with answering questions that make me uncomfortable? And what are the baby steps that I need to take in order to have the bigger conversation? Once I started practicing that, and then I started like opening myself up a little bit more and a little bit more, it was amazing the way people started opening themselves up to me. The way that this is both personal and professional, like the way that I connect with my employees now, because I'm open to being vulnerable, that we make mistakes, that I don't have all of the answers, but I promise we'll figure it out together. I promise I'll never give up. We're going to keep trying even when we fail. But like, it's okay to not know. It's okay to have family things going on in the background and not know how to check it at the door. You know what? Let's figure it out together. Like, let me help you be a better person at work so then you could be a better person to your people when you go home. Because if you can't do that for your people, they're not going to have any connection or alignment with the work that they're doing. It's either going to be an escape or it's going to be a distraction, but it's not going to create a wholehearted and fulfilled life for them. And that's what you want in order to build that loyalty and that camaraderie and that longevity in someone's career, especially when you're pouring all of this time and money and resources and energy into growing and cultivating talent. That's the way that you build a connection. So, I mean, vulnerability it's an exercise and it's a practice and it's very uncomfortable. But once you embrace it, of like, this is not a weakness, this is actually my strength. I've realized my strength is vulnerability because I could connect with someone so much faster than when I was just stoic and strong all of the time.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I hear so often in my coaching is the leaders are like, I can't tell my team this. Like they know I don't have it all figured out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no one has it all figured out.
No one. Yes, exactly.
And if you think you do, you're mistaken
You're
because you
fooling
don't.
yourself. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that and so what?
But also that it encourages creativity and like let's take chances and let's step outside of our comfort zone, because if we're always pretending that we have it figured out all of the time, then what does that mean for everyone else who doesn't? When they think the leader like just operates like this, it's not about I don't know all the answers, but I know that I have to stay in motion. I know I have to move with momentum, and that's what I want other people to do. I'd rather you take action than no action at all. Let's make the mistake. Let's learn from it. Let's fail. Let's recalibrate, and let's work together.
Yeah. And you had mentioned the ability to connect with people. And I've seen it time and time again when leaders step into that vulnerability and just really have the conversation. And like you said, let's figure it out together. It changes the narrative. It changes the mindset of everyone involved. And I've only seen positive outcomes from that.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all human, and it's about human connection. When I talk about I don't believe in balance and I don't believe in balance, and people are like, I don't understand. Like, why would I want to work for you if you don't believe in balance? And I'm like, because there's no such thing as work-life balance. It is life. This is all life.
And work's part of
so
life.
And work is part of life. So we need to figure out how to have fun here. And we need to figure out how to have friendships here. And we hold each other accountable. We make each other stronger. And we just figure out like, how does it all become one? Because if you operate in these silos, then you're always going to feel some sort of an emptiness of I'm not doing enough, or I don't want to be there, or what am I missing out on? You have to build, connect the bridges and make it all work together.
And this is probably a little bit of a side note, or a side tangent. I hear quite often from leaders when they talk about this is like, yeah, but we still have to deliver on the business. And, so all this like people touchy-feely stuff is a distraction from the business outcomes. How do you manage that? I've got my thoughts, but I want to.
Yeah, like if my people are not operating at their best human capacity because we're not being human first, then the business there'll be a ceiling to it. So like, yes, of course we have to deliver on the results for the clients, and we need to make sure that we're performing and that we're double checking our work, we're not making mistakes, and we're being good professionals, but we could be good humans and good professionals at the same time. And if someone's not being a good professional and and listen, I've gotten into this mistake too many times where I keep throwing someone a rope. I want to help you. Here are the resources. And you can't change someone who doesn't want to change, and if they're not willing to do the work for themselves, then they're not willing to do the work for themselves. And that's okay. You know what I've realized is maybe I'm just not the right fit for you. I want to give you the support and the resources so you can be the best human at home and at work. But if you don't feel like you're getting that resources for you, then I'm not the right place for you, and this is not the right place for you, and I wish you the best of luck. And I think that is an okay conversation as well. But listen, I understand why people are coming at it from that perspective, but I do think it's very, very possible to have both. I do think sometimes lines could get blurred and it could get messy, but I think if you set the expectation that we are here, that I want to make sure that I give you a well-rounded life in this job that is going to help fulfill and meet the goals and the aspirations of your family. That's why you're coming to work. If people draw those bridges and that connection, you just have there's so much more buy-in from your employees.
Yeah. And I had heard someone talk about it the other day is like people always talk about, oh, we're a family here. And this person was saying, family is maybe not the best approach because you can't fire your family.
Yeah.
Whereas like a team, if you're a team,
yes, a team.
Yes, team
yes,
members
I love
all
that.
have a role, and you are cohesive and you can get along, but everyone has their role to play.
And you're only as strong as your weakest player. So let's make the weakest player as strong as they could be. What resources does that player need in order to be more successful? Is that a player issue? Is it a practice problem? Is it a leadership challenge? And identifying that, because a lot of times it can also be leadership challenges of, am I communicating with that person properly? Am I motivating that person? Do I understand that person properly? But if you don't understand your people, then you can't motivate them to their desires and to their needs. And so I think all of those components, the outside of work, fluffy stuff, is very important to understand. Why do people show up? Why do they want to be here? In making sure that you're meeting their goals and their expectation for their life.
Yeah. Desire on their point, skill set on their side, skill from the leader,
Totally.
and the communication, all those things come into play, but it's often just looked at as, well, this person's not the right fit, and they get rid of them, but maybe they're not the right fit for that role. Maybe they're great for another role in the organization, or maybe it's just the way things are being presented. There are so many variables that I feel get lost in we just need to get this role delivered.
Listen, I had this happen to me this morning, where I'm working on a new project with my team, and I have different parts of my creative team working on different assets. And I'm like, it's just not coming out right. Something is missing. I'm like, I think this is a me problem. So instead of giving individual tasks, I said, we're getting in a room today, and I want to know everyone's feedback, because right now there's either I'm not giving the right feedback. There's an error with communication. We're not working together. Let's figure it out. Let's sit in the room together. And it was like this, like I like this and I don't like this. And where everyone had a voice, where everyone had an opinion, where all of a sudden I started to see in that meeting, I had assigned the wrong roles to the wrong people. And we swapped it. And now we've been working on this project for about a month. And in the last 8 hours, we've made more strides than we did over the past 2 months. And and I take that on me. That was a leadership challenge, because I had given the wrong roles to the wrong people and they weren't having the right communication. Now, all of a sudden, we reshuffled the deck, and it's like, okay, we're moving forward again. This is great.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of self-reflection and humility to be like, yeah, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
And again, the vulnerability, step into that. One thing you mentioned earlier that I think comes back to some of what we're talking about now are the rituals that you have in place. One of them you mentioned was reflection, but and I find a lot of leaders have these rituals in place, but struggle to help their team put some of these rituals in place. How do you approach that?
That's a great question. So, I have my daily rituals, my weekly rituals, my month, and I find different adoption from different people at different stages. Again, not every ritual is for everyone, but again, I think it's important to create the let's try it. And I don't want to try it for me. I want to try it for you. I want you to see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, just because I said this is what, change it. There are no rules in life. There are no rules in business. The best entrepreneurs are the ones who throw out the playbook, start all over again, and just keep innovating. And so I think that's the same here. So, to me, positive self-talk is super important. It is a daily ritual. I have been doing it for 20 years. I talk to myself every day, and as soon as I wake up in the morning, and that comes back to me when, I start having moments of self-doubt, or I need to have a difficult conversation. Like I become my biggest cheerleader. And now I've tried to encourage everyone on my team to go home and start talking to yourself, motivate yourself, and get yourself amped in the morning and positive mindset. And I have no idea if they're doing it or not. What I started incorporating was we do positive self-talk as a team. So before we go into a big pitch, like, okay, we deserve to be here. Tell me why you feel really good about this meeting today. What did you do to contribute that you're super excited about? Like, what you're doing. Let's hype each other up. Hype yourself up. Let's do it. This is why I do this individually. Same thing applies in a group. And it gets all of a sudden, I see everyone they start feeling the nerves start to shake out a little bit of, instead of I'm nervous about what I'm going to say and what I'm going to deliver, even though I do this all of the time, the fear of public speaking is still a very big fear. Doesn't matter how good you are at your job. Let's shake out the nerves and realize we are great at what we do. We worked really hard to be here. We deserve to be in this presentation. We deserve this meeting. We are an expert contributor to this group. And changing that tone, even before going into a meeting, I feel that it comes back even when, then I have, the same person a few hours later, oh, we made a mistake. This does not work at all. But okay, let's go back to that moment of confidence that we had you're still great at what you do. You're amazing at what you do. Just this isn't working right here. So it's that reinforced positivity of training your brain to go back to it. And I do that in a bunch of different things with, time blocking and creating time every week to organize our systems. How do we dive into our systems? What does that process look like? And so, I find different people pivot towards different things, who's more analytical, that likes the more organized approach, who's more data driven, who's more emotional, who likes the reflection stuff. Like there's a different practice for each personality type. And it's just trial and error.
Well, and you said something very interesting that I've found helps as well. And I think it's something that is missing from a lot of the positive self-talk or the affirmations out there that people do is the specificity.
Yes.
When you just have these generalities, oh, I'm the best.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're probably not the best, but you do some things really, really well. And this is the specific thing you did well here. And this is, like you say, we deserve to be here because we've done this, this, and this.
Yep.
That is from like the neuroscience standpoint, it connects so much deeper. And that is a tangible brain body connection that they can make that says, yeah, oh, I've done this. And it boosts the confidence rather than you say these things that are so generalized, your brain naturally can rationalize that it's not true. So you stop believing and it actually makes the affirmations make it worse.
Totally.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I love to see you incorporating that into the team meetings. So for those of you leaders listening out there, incorporate that authentically.
Yes. Yes.
And that's a key part of the vulnerability is being authentic. And I think a lot of leaders try to be something they're not, and then everyone gets it. They see that a mile away.
Yeah, listen, and I do it on the flip side too. So there's the amp up before the meeting, but there's also the debrief after the meeting. So when we're going to pitch new business, and I start first, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. I wish I said it this way. And then sharing that with the team. I could do that reflection in private, but I choose to do that in front of my whole team to let them know, even though that I go on far more pitches than they do, I still have nerves and I still make mistakes and I still work on becoming better every single time. And the only way that you become better is to identify what you did. I feel that there's tremendous impact by bringing it to people's attention of okay, I said this in the meeting. Do you see why that landed wrong? What I should have said was this. That would have been better received. That would have been better received because it would have taken out the emotional component. I wouldn't have been as emotionally charged, or whatever it is. So then you give them the tool to recognize, oh, right, I did feel when the room tensed up. I did recognize when you or when you said something, it calls to it and it helps everyone, again, learn from the group and to become better. And then encouraging everyone else. What do you wish you did different in that meeting? Would you have changed something? What are you proud of that you did during that? I think you did awesome when you said that. You nailed it when you presented those logos. You nailed it when you put the demographic on who that client was and the way you presented that and the emotional impact you had, the way you described it, getting very, very specific, that helps the group.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's Chip and Dan Heath in their book Switch. They talk about calling out the bright spots and specifically in the moment. Yeah, it's so powerful. We chatted about authenticity a little bit, and authenticity, everyone is aware of that it's important to be authentic, especially as a leader, but your situation is a bit unique. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are of how you stay authentic being on TV or in the media.
Yeah. It's a great question. So For me, I think, again, it started with the vulnerability of embracing. And then I realized that this just evolves into every aspect of like the messiness of life and embracing that. And where I really leaned into it was like the messiness of my business and telling that story of like, it's chaotic, there's a lot going on, but this is what we're working on. And like always coming back to trying to one, tell the story, put it in my own words, and then have it relate with people. And the only way that I figured that out was by practicing a lot. Honestly, like social media has been huge for me. It started with the show, but then the community that I've built on social media. And I realized like the feedback I was getting from people were like, wow, I love when you like take the makeup off and all you do is talking about like the time block in your office and like you're throwing papers up and down because you're like trying to work through your to-do list. Like that feels real. The curated thing that you put on your feed about like how you have it all figured out and your money and your time block never goes off schedule. I don't know about that, but like leaning into like, this is my brand, this is my storytelling, this is what I want to convey. And then also as things shift and change, as you learn with like through that process, continuing to evolve and change it and explain it. And that evolves both like on a public platform, but also in private too, of when I'm, when I talk to my leadership team, like I'm in a different place than I was a year ago. And I look back on, the decisions we made then or the people we had then, and things have shifted. Like, how are we continuing to move towards and work towards our values? How do we continue to bring our values to the forefront of the way that we're recruiting or bringing new clients on? How do we be honest with ourselves in the way that we're delivering feedback or we're communicating as a team? I think that authenticity, it has to be wholehearted. It needs to come from every aspect and facet of your life. And that's super important.
Yeah, I like that as that team connect as well, as a check-in or call it guardrail around your authenticity and how you're showing up. And what have you put in place with your team to be able to call you on that?
So I do individual check-ins with each of the people who work for me, and we do it I do individual and I do group check-ins. And I think, constantly recalibrating on like understanding we do a lot of goal setting together, but also like how is the goals that you're hitting professionally, like how are you bringing them home? And then do you feel connection with the work that you're doing? And do you feel that things have shifted in your life that you want to be doing something differently? And how do we change again? If the role right now is not working for you, or if the job that you're doing is not, how do we shift it so we could have that? Because yes, you may be in this specific position, but we could always move things around. Yes, the job needs to get done. That's not a question. The job needs to get done. But how do we, if you want to take on more responsibility or feel more experience, more leadership, or dabble in a manager position without taking on the promotion in order to get there, just to experience if you like that relationship, like what does that, maybe we have a mentorship program, maybe we start a new coaching program, maybe we could write the playbook together. And so I can't say it's a broad stroke picture of this is what we do. It's on a very individualized basis of constantly evaluating where people are and meeting them at their level.
I love that. And sadly, not as many leaders do that as would be beneficial. But yeah, those are more important conversations to be having with yourself and with your team.
Yep.
And it makes a tremendous impact on how they show up and how you show up, and ultimately it benefits the business. You had mentioned that you're in a very different spot than you were a year ago.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know which of your intentions are showing up more prevalent and more important to you now than they were a year ago.
Abundance. Operating with an abundance mindset and that was an intention I set for myself a year ago, has been huge because, the year prior to that, I was focusing on discipline and feeling liberated because I felt like all I could do was be in these four walls. Then it was like, okay, now that I've gotten out of that and I've started to, what else is out there for me? And in the past year, it's writing the book. It's having great conversations like this. It's starting to travel more. It's thinking about my money and my money plans more. I've entered a new personal relationship, which I had not been in a relationship for many, many years because I'd been married to my business. And so it was that shift of I could be very, very successful professionally, and I can also do these other things. And my business will not be compromised or sacrificed because of it, because I am deserving of abundance and I can have all of these things. And the universe wants me to feel that. And so abundance has been at the forefront. If I could describe the past year, it would be abundance.
I love it. And yeah, in order to do those things and create that abundance, it requires stepping out of who you were
Mm-hmm.
and learning and growing and developing into a new version of yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, the shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset is huge. Once you realize that you are capable of so much more and you don't have to have this fear, especially around, and I say this, like, money is a huge thing. The way that I was spending money with my team and with marketing and, new initiatives of thinking of like, oh, but what if it doesn't come back? And what about this? Or we have so many other things going on right now. Is this a priority? That doesn't mean being carefree and careless and reckless. That is absolutely not it. But shifting of I don't have to be fearful. I am confident in knowing what I'm doing, and it will come back around.
Yeah, and I love how you're talking about the nuanced shift of the mindset, because I've seen that in my own life, and I
Mm-hmm.
very tuned into, especially more recently, the last couple of years, I've had some major work and life things going on that put me into a scarcity negative mindset
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for a significant period of time. And I didn't realize how bad it had got until I started doing more reflection. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to really nip this in the bud and turn it
Yep.
around. And it's fascinating, the difference in how I'm showing up each day, the energy, the mindset I'm approaching the same situations just by
Yeah.
shifting the mindset. And I obviously theoretically knew it and understood it, but having just recently gone through that shift, I'm still blown away by the power it has to impact our day to day.
Oh, the power of mindset it's remarkable with whatever shift you're trying to make, like the perception you have over who you are and how you stand in the world. And once you identify, who do I think that I am and how do I show up and how do I want to show up? And what in my brain do I need to change or rewire or focus on relentlessly in order to get there? Like, that is so powerful. And once you unlock that, and listen, there could be points where you go back. Like, it's not, you unlocked it and now you're free, like, it's a constant working on your mindset, but your mind will unlock far more than having, more investors or more money or more capital to deploy. Like, your mindset is what will liberate you, and your business will grow tenfold because everything will just start shifting around you with the way that people want to work with you.
Love it. And I so agree with it. As we think about the journey you've taken over this past year, you've just released the book. And if we're thinking about how it's going to impact leaders and readers of the book, what do you see as the biggest takeaway from
Yeah.
the message?
So this book it's partial storytelling and like my story, but a lot of applicable practices and exercises. And it's like a workshop. At the end of it, I was like, did I write a textbook? Are people going to like this? But I think the most important thing that I want to come out of it is to recognize that everyone has their own unique story. It is what makes them special for the way that they show up in the world and the way that they connect with people. And embracing that and learning how to share and tell your story to better connect with people is like the whole thing, like, how do you understand you? And then how do you use that in your relationships with your kids so they understand you better, with your partner, with your boss, with the person who sits next to you in the office. How in, I want to say 5 minutes, but we all know everyone's life story is more than 5 minutes. But in 5 to 10 minutes, if I asked you, who are you? What's your story? What would you say? Where would you start?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that you could captivate someone by bringing out that authenticity and that vulnerability and that mindset, that all is revealed right there in that story. So learn how to tell your story. Recognize the power that it has. And then recognize that you are so in control of shifting and changing that perception of your story and the future of your story by understanding it. But first you have to understand it. You have to be able to tell it in order to fix where you want to go from here.
Yeah, I'm hearing when you can step into the mindset of that authenticity, vulnerability to tell your story, all the intentions start to flow from that.
100%. Exactly.
Very cool. Couple little sort of bit more rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What's one thing you wish more executives understood about how to lead well?
Really understanding that everyone's so different. Like there is not one leadership style, and also you will not have one leadership style your whole career. Like as you change and shift as a person and life happens to you, that will shift and the way you connect with people will change. So you always have to be learning and relearning yourself and the way that people are relating to you.
Awesome. And yeah, well said, because that is so true. You're not the person you were yesterday.
Correct.
Hopefully you're not. If you could give your 25-year-old self one message about performance and well-being, what would it be?
Take care of your mind first and trust the process. Like trust in yourself and believe in you, and work on Bianca, work on your confidence, because if you have the right mind and confidence, you can go anywhere.
Awesome. And what's next for you? What's the next part of your journey?
So to me, the goal with this book is really about community. I have found so much community and connection over the past few years that have like far exceeded the real estate world. And so that's what I want. And I think like now at a time where we crave connection and human connection and deeper connection more than ever, because we're so used to scrolling and just instant, fast, boom, 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 boom. People want to be understood. They don't know how to express themselves in the same way. They don't know how to communicate and verbalize. And so I want to create a place and a space where people could do that. So I am working on multiple different community platforms and events and masterminds to bring together like-minded people to build that community. And I would say that's another really big thing. We talked about finding your tribe before, but like I can't emphasize and stress that enough. I think so many times people are afraid to look outside of their circle, and they're like, well, haven't found it here, so I don't know where to go. When I started my business, I knew like I was lost and I needed a tribe of people who found me. And I found that tribe, and it's down in Atlanta. I live in New York City, and I fly down to Atlanta once a month to meet with these people because they light something in me that I haven't found, which sounds crazy. I haven't found in New York City. And so like your tribe could be anywhere. It could be virtual, it could be physical, it could be on social media, whatever it is, but like find a tribe of people who you could be your best authentic self with and lean into that.
And that help you grow and develop and become even better version of your authentic self.
Totally.
I hear you about the masterminds and the groups. I've been in numerous business groups over the years, and the energy that you come out of those weekends with is just so fantastic. It can sustain you for a quarter or more.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's awesome. Last takeaway. What's the one piece of advice, or other than go check out your book, because I'll make sure I put that in there. But
we talked about that enough.
But what's the one piece of advice you'd say for leaders out there?
To me, it's positivity. Like finding a positive center. Like your people won't want to be surrounded by negativity. People need positivity. They need hope. They need vision. They need aspiration. So find a way and find within you of like, how do you ground yourself and how do you become that glass half full? How do you see the light and how do you help bring people to it? I think that is so, so crucial. I talk a lot in the book about not toxic positivity, but contagious positivity, yes. Right? Like, how do you radiate positivity so people want to hear what you have to say? They want to say hi to you in the morning when they come into the office. They want to hear about your weekend. They want to know what project you're working on because you talk about it with enthusiasm and with light. That's the person that people want to surround themselves with.
I'm so happy you mentioned the toxic positivity because I think that's just such a misunderstanding out there is that you have to be positive all the time.
Yeah. It's not all the time.
Not everything's positive.
No, but you have to see like that, you know, even when you're going through, like, even when we're going through the worst of the worst and the market's terrible and no one's buying and this and that, like, it's going to get better, guys. Yeah. Like, I promise you will. What can we work on today while things are really slow and things aren't selling and clients are angry? What could we work on to deliver results, to deliver feedback and waiting for things to get better? Because if it's always going to be doom and gloom. Yeah. What hope are you giving people? People need hope.
Yeah, this situation is really crappy. What are we learning from it so we can move forward in a positive direction? How is it making us stronger? How is it becoming our, Jedi master or sensei to teach us what we need to teach?
Yes. For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bianca. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to reconnect again sometime soon. And I will make sure people find your link to your book in the show notes. And what other social platforms are you on where people can find you?
Very, very active on Instagram and LinkedIn. And of course, you can visit my website, biancadalessio.com.
All right. Well, Bianca, we will chat again soon. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is awesome.
That wraps up another episode of the Working Well podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, which guests or topics would you like to see featured on the show? Message me through LinkedIn or on the contact page of timborys.com with your ideas. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Borys with Fresh Wellness Group, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.